That's why we're here. So let's talk about why self-love feels impossible. The science of unworthiness, emotional neglect, and how to heal. Now, if you've ever told yourself that to just love yourself, or someone's just said, just love yourself, and felt absolutely nothing shift, this workshop is for you. You've probably heard the advice 1,000 times. Practice self-care, say affirmations, put yourself first. And maybe you've even tried it, and maybe none of it has ever really stuck long term. Here's what almost no one will tell you when it comes to self love. Self love is not a choice. It's not like you can turn on a flip, oh, I'm going to love myself today. It's a capacity that you either have or were never taught to develop. So self love is a capacity. Self love is a learned thing. If you never learn to love yourself, you don't do it. You don't self love. Today, we're going to talk about why. We're also going to talk, not from a place of blame or shame, but from science, because I love me some science, and from compassion. Because if you've struggled with self-love, there is a very clear, very human reason why, and it's not your fault. And once you understand it, everything starts to make sense. So stay with me. This is going to change how you see yourself. Now, self-love, part one of this workshop, part one, what self-love actually requires, okay? Let's start with something that might sound obvious, but actually isn't. You cannot love what you believe is unworthy of love. So when Daniela's dad left, that creates an incredible abandonment wound. Mom is now not focusing on the children, perhaps. She's worried about if she's codependent, she wants another relationship. If she has borderline personality disorder, she's stuck in being angry and feeling like a victim, may even blame the children for why dad left, caught up in narcissism. Borderline personality disorder falls under narcissism. And so now this little girl, Daniela, is living with dad's gone, mom isn't here to, who's taking care of my emotions? That's the job of the other parent in the house. But that hole is getting wider and wider and wider and wider. And most children assume it's because I'm not lovable. I'm just not lovable. So you can't have self-love if that's your wound. Think about that for a second. All the self-love practices in the world, the journaling, the meditation, the bubble baths, positive affirmations, they don't work if somewhere deep inside at the level of the subconscious, you hold a subconscious belief that you are fundamentally not enough, not lovable, and not worthy. You can't do it. And most people who struggle with self-love, which is manifests as a lack of self-respect, it manifests as people-pleasing, as fawning, apologizing, over-functioning, over-giving, obsession about what's going on in the lives of their children, what their partners are doing, what their mothers think. They're losing themselves, right? There's no self-love anchor. It's very external. When you're codependent, everything's outside of you. You think that the way that you feel is because of someone's not listening to you, or it's because someone's doing something. It's always externalized. So, and most people who struggle with self-love aren't struggling because they're not trying hard enough. They're struggling because they're building a house on a cracked foundation. The foundation is self-worth. And for a lot of us, that foundation was damaged early in life before we had a say in the matter. So before we can talk about self-love, we have to talk about self-worth. And before we can talk about self-worth, we have to talk about where it comes from. So if you didn't have parents teaching you that you were worthy, you don't have self-worth. So if you don't have self-worth, you can't self-love. You're going to manifest as someone who does not respect the self. You're going to abandon the self. If you're a female, you're going to put yourself in precarious situations with men. You're not going to know how to say no. You're going to give yourself up. If you're a man that doesn't have self-worth and you don't love yourself, you're going to let women take advantage of you. So part two is the invisible wound, which is childhood emotional neglect. There's a type of childhood experience that doesn't leave a visible mark. Not all trauma is big T trauma. And I would have to say, when I run a live class, like a 12-week class, which we are running in June, by the way, if you're interested, inevitably, There are people in the class that say, I don't know if I belong here because I didn't have that big T trauma. Oh, yes, you do, because it's a lot harder to heal an invisible scar than an invisible wound than it is to heal a scar that you can see. You know your mother did this. You know your father physically did that. So I would say that people have invisible wounds. It's harder for them to heal because they can't see it. I used to say, I wish my ex would just do something physical because then I would feel justified in the way that I felt. Sort of the same thing. Childhood emotional neglect, or CEN, is not about what was done to you. It's about what wasn't done. It's the absence of emotional attunement. You were born, but you felt like you were floating out in outer space. You weren't connected to anyone. And that made you feel unworthy. You needed to be grounded, right? Like imagine this umbilical cord and you're floating out into outer space and mom's sitting on the living room in Queens, New York. And you're just out there by yourself, floating out the window from this umbilical cord. And no one really cares about you. No one's, how are you? Is it cold out there? Are you hungry? Like, how was your day? Nothing, nothing, nothing. You're floating out in outer space. Asteroids are hitting you. And there's all sorts of rocket fuel, like burning up your skin. No one cares. No one cares, right? What you needed was for someone to pull you back. Oh, I see you, and pull you through this window. And oh, you poor thing, it's been so cold outside. Let me come in and take care of you. Let you come in and let me take care of you. Come, 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 come. Sit down on the couch. Let me warm you up. Let me give you some warm milk. Something doesn't happen with emotional neglect. You're just floating out in space, and no one cares about you. It's the absence of that emotional attunement, the absence of being truly seen and heard and validated by the people who you were born to. Your parents may have been on the outside loving people. They may have kept you fed and clothed and safe. They may have worked hard for your family. But if they were emotionally unavailable, if they dismissed your feelings, minimized your distress, couldn't mirror your emotional world back to you, you received an incomplete picture of yourself. Dr. Jonas Webb, who first defined CEN in clinical terms, describes it this way. When a child's emotional needs go unmet, the child doesn't conclude that their parents failed them. This is the brainwashing piece. The child concludes, and you can use the word concludes and just says is brainwashed to believe that their emotional needs are a problem, that their feelings are too much, and that they are too much. That's why we develop codependency. And here is where the internalization happens. How children internalize unworthiness. Children are egocentric by nature. And I mean that in developmental neurological sense, not a selfish one. Young children cannot conceptualize that an adult is emotionally limited. If my daughter yells at my granddaughter doesn't say, oh, mom's having a rough day. The baby didn't sleep. She concludes it's my fault. I'm not enough. I did something wrong. A child cannot conclude that a mother is depressed, that a mother is traumatized, distracted, or simply incapable. The developing brains interpret everything through a self-referential lens. What does this mean about me? So when a child reaches out for emotional connection and doesn't receive it, again and again and again, the conclusion the brain forms isn't my parents struggle with their emotions. The conclusion is, or the brainwashed pattern is, my emotions are wrong. I am wrong. There is something about me that is not worth caring for. This is not a conscious thought. It's a felt sense, felt energy, state of being. A deep, wordless knowing that settles into the body and the nervous system. Neuroscience tells us that these emotional maps formed in the first years of life become the blueprint for how we see ourselves for the rest of our lives until we make that which is unconscious conscious. Okay? They don't live in the verbal mind. You don't hear, I'm unworthy, it's all my fault. You don't hear that. You feel it. Okay? They live in the body, in the nervous system, and in our automated responses. Like when someone bumps into you and you say, oh, I'm sorry, right? Or someone says, what do you want to do for dinner? And you go, I don't know. What do you want to do for dinner? Classic codependency. I don't know. Yeah, you don't know because you're not used to tuning into yourself. You don't think you matter. Hello. So it's manifesting, even though it's unconscious, it's a felt sense. Okay. This is why you can know intellectually that you are worthy of love and still not feel it. Now, here's the neuroscience, because all of my coaching programs, the 12-week, the 8-week, and Soul School, everything's neuroscience. Everything's neuroscience. When I first started, it was like a hypothesis for me 25, 30 years ago, but now it's been confirmed. Now it's confirmed. Let me give you a quick neuroscience picture. When we experience something repeatedly in childhood, our brain prunes and reinforces neural pathways around that experience. It's called experience-dependent plasticity. Experiences that repeat, especially emotionally charged ones, become wired into the default neural architecture. Repetition, observation, and consistency. My needs don't matter. My needs don't matter. No one's here for me. They can't see me. So now there's pruning going on neurologically. And that becomes your download. I'm unimportant. I must be unworthy. And it runs your life. Who knew? If the recurring experience is my emotional self is not welcome here, the brain wires up a self-concept around that. So your experiences are wiring your psychological self-concept that you're not even aware is your self-concept. Are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Okay, let me explain how this happens. The anterior insula, and Andrew Huberman would back me up here. The anterior insula, the part of the brain that processes self-awareness and internal states, actually encodes a sense of self-worth based on earlier attachment experiences. It becomes the internal subconscious script running in the background of everything. Everything. I want to teach you how this happens. I want to teach you why this happened. I want to teach you how to hack it. Okay. And here's what makes this so sneaky, because CEN, childhood emotional neglect, is an absence rather than an event. There's no memory to point to. How do you fix a hole in the wall you can't see? Can you see why so many children of emotional neglect become addicts? There's pain, but we can't point to it. My mother cooked for me every day. What am I talking about? Like, it's neglect. You can't miss neglect if you don't know that there was something missing. So we turn to drugs. We turn to relationship addiction or sex addiction or gambling or shopping or scrolling through social media. We're trying to escape something we can't name. So important, because it's something that didn't happen. I really hope that this makes sense. And if you agree with me, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you agree with me, or that not agree with me, that it makes sense to you. You don't have to agree with anything that I say. If it resonates, then it resonates. Okay, so people often say, I had a fine childhood. Nothing bad happened. And they're right. Nothing happened. And that's exactly the problem. Part 3, what happens next? And let's talk about the downstream effect, okay? When a child grows up with an internalized belief of unworthiness, they don't walk into adulthood wearing a sign that says, I believe I'm unlovable. Instead, the belief drives the behavior. So you want to understand your belief is subconscious, but it's driving a behavior. Every person that you look at, you have to understand they have a subconscious belief. They're not conscious. They have a subconscious belief that's driving every word that comes out of their mouth, you included. And until you make that which is unconscious conscious, you're just spitting out your programming. That's why we're all so reactive. And social media is benefiting from that. Okay? So when a child grows up with an internalized belief of unworthiness, they don't walk into adulthood wearing a sign that says, I believe I'm unlovable. Instead, the belief drives the behavior. And those behaviors are so normal, so common, that most people never trace them back to their source. I did not marry my first husband, now my ex-husband, thank the Lord, with the sign that said, I'm codependent and I need to be needed. I'm going to find my value and how well I can keep you happy. I'm going to exhaust myself trying to anticipate your needs. My aim is going to be to please you. I will not know that I don't have a sense of self. I will have no clue that I have no sense of self-esteem. I will have no clue that I have no self-love. I will have no clue. But I'm going to do everything I can to make you happy, because I've been brainwashed to think that's my role. Because if I don't make you happy, then I'm afraid you won't love me anymore, or you won't find me lovable and you'll leave me. And if you leave me, then I'm left with this mortal wound that I experienced in childhood, otherwise known as abandonment trauma. And when I experience that trauma from the state of the 3-year-old within me, I can't do it. I suffocate. I drown in air, because it is unimaginable to be a child and to feel alone in the world. It's akin to death. And so we're running from that. So I guess what I do, I bring everybody to that pain, right? And I teach them how to deal with that pain so they can escape the loop. It works when it works. It's wonderful. Okay, so let me walk you through the 4 major patterns that I see. And I want you to notice if any of these sound familiar. Number 1, people pleasing. Okay, so people pleasing is not kindness. I want to be clear about that. Kindness is a choice that comes from a full, secure sense of self. People pleasing is a survival strategy, a compulsive need to manage other people's emotions so that I feel safe. If you grew up in an environment where your emotional needs were not welcome, you may have learned very early that the way to stay connected to the people you needed was to attend to their emotions instead of your own. You became hypervigilant to other people's moods, to their needs, and to their states. You learned to read the room before you spoke. You learned that saying yes kept peace and saying no caused rupture. In adulthood, this looks like never saying no, constant over apologizing, shrinking yourself in relationships, feeling responsible for everyone except yourself. And it perpetuates a sense of worthlessness because you are constantly communicating through your own actions that your needs don't matter. It's all below the veil of consciousness. So your behaviors when it comes to people pleasing are tied to unconscious beliefs that are tied to childhood pain that you just haven't yet to sit long enough to observe and work through. Number 2 is codependency. Codependency is people pleasing scaled up to the level of relationship architecture. It's building your entire sense of self around the needs, moods, and stability of another person or other people. When you don't have a really strong internalized sense of who you are, your own worth, not just because you breathe. You're worthy because you breathe. I'm worthy because I breathe. I'm worthy because I breathe. I'm worthy because I exist. Like I don't have to do A, B, and C in order to feel worthy. So-and-so and so-and-so doesn't have to like me in order for me to be worthy, right? Me and my inner child, we're good. Me, my inner child, my higher self, my body, we're good. If you don't have that, you look for external confirmation. A relationship becomes a mirror. If the person you love seems okay, you feel okay. If they're in distress, you dissolve into their distress. You lose the boundary between your emotional state or their emotional state and your own because you never had a clear, stable sense of your own emotional state to begin with. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk works on trauma and attachments, describes this as a disruption in the capacity for self-regulation. You don't know how to regulate your own internal world, so you regulate it through others. And this creates relationships that feel suffocating, desperate, or deeply unequal. Not because you're damaged, but because you are doing the only thing your nervous system knows how to do. And you have to have compassion for yourself because you do this because no one regulated your emotions. They made fun of your emotions. No one taught you that your emotions mattered. So don't beat yourself up. This is just cause and effect. Number 3, addiction. Addiction to substances, to food, to work, to social media, to chaos, to love itself. It is at its core a regulation strategy. Addiction is a regulation strategy. It's a way of managing an internal world that feels absolutely unbearable. When you carry a deep, unspoken belief that you are unworthy, whether it's conscious or unconscious, remember, we're going back to the feeling, the feeling. This took me almost 4 decades to figure out. Like, if you would have asked me when I was 35, do you love yourself? I'd be like, yeah, I got a big mouth. No, that big mouth came from, it was a cover up because I felt so unworthy. I was defensive. I was protecting my inner child. Yeah, of course I love myself, right? No, I did not. My true beingness, I felt terribly unworthy. When you carry a deep, unspoken belief that you are unworthy, the internal experience of being yourself is painful. There is a chronic low level distress that most people can't even name. It's just the water they swim in, and anything that temporarily relieves that distress becomes compelling. This is why addiction is so often linked to early attachment wounds. It's not about willpower, it's about pain management. Dr. Gabor Mate has written extensively on this, his core message being don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. And for so many people, the pain is the unprocessed grief of a childhood, that childhood self that was not truly seen. Number 4, we have an addiction to validation. This one is perhaps the most relevant to our topic today and the least often talked about. If you grew up without consistent emotional mirroring, without adults who reflected back to you, you're wonderful, you matter, your feelings make sense, you learn to source your sense of worth from the outside. Compliments, achievements, approval, likes, praise, being chosen, these become the fuel for self-worth that can't sustain itself from within. That's why healing this is so important. And that's why it's a process. I teach methods, and for people to recover, I ask them just give this work 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day, because it's you can't take this all in a workshop and think, oh, I'm going to apply this. It's a shift day by day by day. And this is why you can receive 100 compliments and one critical comment destroys your entire day. It's why you feel okay when someone texts you back quickly and spiraling when they don't. It's why achievements feel hollow almost the moment they happen. You got the validation, but it can never land deeply enough because there's no internal foundation to receive it. Quick story, I worked for a man who was a professional world-class deadlifter, very strong person, and he won a gold medal. Like he broke like the world record. And he said the minute, same thing with Bruce Jenner, was now Caitlyn Jenner, but same thing. Like the minute this guy dropped the weights, he was like done. It was like nothing. It didn't land. He had no self to grab it, right? So the minute he achieved the medal, he was done. It was like it didn't even land. That's so important that we realize. So the brain in this state is literally running on an external approval loop, but you don't know it. The ventral striatum, again, we'll go back to Mr. Andrew Huberman. He'd love this stuff. And I think he'd agree. I know he'd agree with me. The ventral striatum, the brain's reward center, lights up to external validation. You are addicted to a like on social media. Damn social media again. You are addicted to people giving you comments. You can be even addicted to firing back at someone who said something negative to you on social media. We're addicted. The reward center is lighting up when we're externally focused. The same way, so now this part of the brain, the reward center lights up to external validation the same way it does to any other reward stimulus. And like any addiction, you need more and more and more of it to feel the same effect. And the absence of it feels like withdrawal. That's why I've coached people who have achieved success, and then they get to a certain level and they're plateauing and they feel so defeated because their brain has associated money or success or prestige or whatever with these external factors that they can't control. And I always ask myself to keep myself in check too. It's like, Lisa, if YouTube disappeared, if all of your books disappeared, if social media disappeared, would you be okay? I would not be happy, but I think I'd be okay. I think I would, because I understand my identity is not tied up into, YouTube subscribers. It's not tied up into who buys a program, who doesn't buy a program. Like, I've worked towards an identity that feels solid. I like to do it, but my identity isn't tied up in it. These days, I want to serve people. Hey, listen, I figured this out. I hope it helps you. That's it. That's it. But if I had started this YouTube channel in my 20s, I'd be a wreck, thinking, oh my God, my channel got hacked. Some crazy person started streaming Bitcoin crap through my channel, right? It's never recovered. Okay. I wasn't happy about that, but thank God Google and YouTube work with me. We got it back up and running. But the channel had a lot of momentum. It's never been the same. I had to adjust to that. My identity can't be caught up in Lisa Romano, the breakthrough life coach. That's what I do, right? It's not who I am. It's not who I am. So we want this internal reward system to be internal. I feel good that I did this. I used to be, well, I still deal with that too, workaholism once in a while, but it's just, I have this framework now that I check myself. It's like check and balances. Like, do you really have to do that? Like, I don't answer my emails after, like, I have a team that does, but I will not check my cell phone after 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Not doing it. I will not check my cell phone before I go to bed. Not doing it. Not doing it. I'm also up very early doing this work. But I have this checks and balances so that I know that Lisa is Lisa inside, not Lisa persona or Lisa the breakthrough life coach. I'm much greater than that, right? Teaching these metacognitive skills, inspiring other people. That's what I do, right? And it's great that it helps people. You got to be very, very careful in this space as a leader, as a coach, or as anyone, to get caught up in thinking that your worth comes from people appreciating you. No, 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 no. It's great if they do, but that can't be where you're getting your sense of self from. You've got to be strong enough and courageous enough to be disliked. You have to be strong enough to not exist in someone else's world, right? You have to be strong enough. And this is what makes self-love so frustrating for people in this pattern, because self-love requires that you source your worth from within. But within is exactly where there is no reservoir. The tank was never filled. So this is part 4. So where does healing actually begin? I want to pause here because I know this has been a lot of information. And I want to say something clearly. None of this is your fault, right? You hear me say this over and over in my meditations, my programs, and my videos. It could have been no other way. This is just a cause and effect universe. What goes in comes out. It's not your fault, right? It was never you. It was just your programming. You were always enough, but your brain didn't know that. None of this is your fault. You did not choose to internalize worthlessness. Your brain did what all brains do. It adapted to its environment. It formed the maps it needed to survive in the family system that you were born into. You are not broken. You were adaptive. You were extraordinarily clever at surviving something that wasn't your fault. Your internal psychological system, your nervous system, took care of you. Even though you might not feel like it did, it adapted. You may have outgrown this adaptation. You might still be running that program, but that's something that you have to figure out. And here is this extraordinary thing about the brain. It is plastic. It continues to change throughout your entire life. The maps that were laid down in childhood can be rewritten. New neural pathways can be carved. New experiences of being worthy can be metabolized and integrated slowly, imperfectly, and genuinely. But, and this is important, healing doesn't come from thinking your way into worthiness. You cannot logic your brain out of a felt sense. You cannot heal this just through thinking about it. Healing comes from new experiences of self, felt experiences, which is why affirmations alone rarely work, and why understanding the root, which we've just done together, is actually the first essential step. So step 1, name it. The first step is exactly what we've done today, naming it. Understanding that the voice inside you that says you're not enough is not the truth. It's just a map. It's just a program. And a map is not the territory. A map is not the territory. When you can catch yourself in a people-pleasing spiral, or a validation seeking loop or a codependent moment and you name it, this is the old map. This is the wound speaking. You interrupt the automatic pilot. That's not nothing. That's enormous. So metacognition, if it's done correctly, and again, if you're interested, the 12-week, 8-week, and soul school, this is what I teach you how to do. I teach all of my students how to edit the map or edit the program in real time. Edit the program in real time. This is where change happens over time, okay? The second step is reparent your emotional self. Now, your emotional self is that little girl like Daniela shared. My dad left. I always felt different. First, you name it. That's just a program. The second step is you reparent your emotional self. Reparenting is a therapeutic concept that means giving yourself now what you didn't receive then. It's not about your actual parents. It's about you stepping into the role of the compassionate, attuned adult that your inner child never had. This looks like sitting with a difficult emotion instead of immediately distracting yourself from it. Asking yourself, what do I need right now? And actually listening. Speaking to yourself with the gentleness you would offer a child in pain. It feels weird and awkward at first, but only because it's unfamiliar. That unfamiliarity is actually evidence that you're doing something new, and new is exactly what the brain needs to change. Number 3, seek felt safety in relationships. The attachment wound is relational, which means it heals relationally. We need experiences of being emotionally seen and responded to by safe other people. This is why I think my live classes are so beneficial and why people who have taken my self-study courses write me and say, when are you going to do a live class? Because in a live class, I have my life coaches and myself, and we're responding to people in real time. So remember that attachment wounds are relational. We need the experiences of being seen. You can initiate that by seeing yourself, which is what all of my work helps you do also. But just so you know, if you're going to try to do this on your own, this is the missing piece for so many people. This might be in therapy. It could be in community. It could be in friendships or even a partner. So Dr. Daniel Siegel's concept of earned secure attachment describes how adults who had insecure early attachment can develop earned security through consistent, attuned relationships later on in life. The nervous system literally updates the model of what connection feels like. This is real and this is possible. I know because it happened to me. Step 4, distinguish self-love from self-worth. Here's a reframe that might help. Stop chasing self-love as the goal and start working on self-love as the foundation. Self-worth is the belief, it's embodied, not just intellectual, that you exist with inherent innate value, that your feelings matter, that your needs are legitimate, that you deserve to take up space. When that foundation is laid, self-love is not something you have to manufacture. It becomes something that eventually naturally begins to flow. The way water flows downhill once the terrain is in place. And that work is slow. You know, we have become, we all have this hedonistic quality. We want it now, daddy. We want it now. Think about Violet and Willy Wonka, right? We all want to be healed now. And then we judge ourselves for not being healed enough, right? It's vicious. It's vicious. It's the opposite of love. So you want to say, wow, this work is going to be slow. I would say if you were new to this journey and you started today, you would have to realistically think like, I'll change in a year. Or I'll have slow changes over a year's time. But what have you got to lose? I said that to myself when I was just divorced, single mom with 3 kids. Like, if I don't give up controlling my mind over the next 15 years, where would I be? Hello. This is where I am. This is where I am. This is where I am. Coaching programs, membership site, YouTube channel, 7 books, I think. I've just been approached by a publishing house to write another book, like podcast. It could happen to me. I'm not some unicorn. I just did this work deliberately. I understood neurologically I had to change my brain. So the work is slow. It's imperfect. It's not a podcast episode or a workshop or a retreat. It's a practice that unfolds over months and years, but it's real and is available to you. Okay. If you are someone who has spent your life performing, pleasing, shrinking, chasing, and numbing, I want you to know that this is not who you are. This is what you learned, and there is a huge, profound difference. And I hope if you can hear that difference, I'll say it again, send a heart. I want to make sure that you get this. If you are someone who has spent your life performing, pleasing, shrinking, chasing, and nurturing, I want you to know that this is not who you are. This is what you learned. This is a profound difference. This is the birthing of metacognition. Wow, this is what I've learned to be. It's not who I am. The version of you that believes it is unworthy was formed in a context of emotional absence. It was your child brain's best attempt to understand a painful, confusing experience. That child did not fail. Your inner child did not fail. Where's my inner child? There she is. My inner child never failed. She was not emotionally attuned to. We should be nice to ourselves. Who will do that if not us? Correct. You have to nudge the judge. I talk about this in Codependency Manifesto. You can't judge yourself anymore. The minute you hear the judge, you say, not today. Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, Satan. I will no longer berate myself. Like, just make a pledge to yourself. I'm not doing that. Now, that child didn't fail. That child survived. And you, the adult watching this, the person who found this video, who sat with the discomfort of this material, you are not that child anymore. You have the capacity now to do something that child could not, to choose differently when negative self-talk pops up into your head. You can walk away when conversations get super negative or super triggering. You can turn your phone off. You could not watch a violent video. You could not give in to propaganda. You could listen to an empowering video versus a disempowering video, right? You are not that child anymore. You can choose differently. You can choose to learn. You can choose to feel, to slowly, carefully extend towards yourself the same compassion you've probably spent a lifetime giving everyone else. That's where this begins. Not with loving yourself more, with believing you're worthy of loving at all. So if this resonated with you, I'd love for you to offer your comments. And if you want to go deeper on any of these concepts we discussed today, emotional neglect, codependency, the neuroscience of self-worth, I've linked some resources below that I trust that may empower you. So take care of yourself, and I will see you next week. But I do want to offer you a closing grounding exercise for those of you who have stuck with me this long. You ready? Okay. Before you close this tab or you walk away, give yourself just 3 minutes. This is a simple body-based practice to help what you just heard from me move you from your head into your body, where healing actually happens. Remember, social media keeps you in your head, and you need to be in your body. You need to be in your heart space to be integrated, right? It's going to control your amygdala, control your hippocampus. That's where all your trauma is stored. That's where we get into psychological loops. That's where we bypass the neocortex and the prefrontal lobe. We cannot be the authorities of our lives. This is when we're becoming sheep, and we don't even realize it. And we feel angry, but we don't realize we're sheep. We're sheep. We're sheep. We're sheep. We're sheep. You don't want to be a sheep. Childhood conditioning taught you to be a sheep. It controls your inner narrative. We want more. So settle in. Find a comfortable position. Just find a comfortable position. Place one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. Come on. Come on. Love yourself enough. As Dr. Joe says, love yourself enough. Close your eyes if that feels safe, or soften your gaze downward. Okay. Number 2, breathe. Breathing anchors you into your body. It takes you out of your mind if you focus on your breath, which is what you want. Social media, narcissists, they don't want you focusing on your breath. They want you focusing on them, what's happening outside of you, right? You're detaching. So take 3 slow, full breaths. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 2, and exhale for 6. So breathe in, count to 4, hold for 2. Now exhale for 6. Let your shoulders drop. My shoulders always naturally drop. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let's do it again. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 2. Exhale for 6. One more time. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 2. Exhale 6. Now, you want to do this for 5 minutes. You know why? Because you will emotionally detach from the mind. Because when you count, you bring on critical thinking and you're not in anxiety mode anymore. You will literally calm your nervous system. Number 3, you notice. Without judgment, notice what you're feeling right now. Not what you think, what you feel. Is there tightness somewhere? Is there sadness? Is there relief? Just observe it the way you'd watch clouds pass. So when you bring your awareness back into your body and you breathe this way for a few minutes, and then you just, you turn on the observer and you observe your body rather than react to your body. Now, again, if your hand isn't on your heart, place your hand on your heart. Keep your hand on your chest and silently say to yourself, I'm not broken. I'm not broken. I adapted. And I'm allowed to heal. I'm not broken. My psychological system, my nervous system, my neurological system, it adapted. And I'm allowed to heal. Say that over and over and over. And number 5, take one more deep breath, wiggle your fingers and toes, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And you can carry this with you today. So that would be a quick grounding exercise. Next week, I'm going to offer you journaling prompts again. These are all neuroscience backed to activate metacognition. Also, I just wanted to briefly, I think we have a link in the description that goes to the 21-day journal, but I also wanted to, this is the 21-day journal. So now you could go and download this book immediately. I sent it off to Staples to have them publish it for me. But this is going to teach you how to come home to yourself. It's $27 immediately downloadable, and you get one journaling prompt a day, and it really helps to activate metacognition inside of you. It will help you. So if you're new to this journey, this book, this journaling program, the 21-day Inner Child Journaling Workbook is definitely going to help you. If you are more advanced, if you are like, I know I'm codependent. I know it's childhood trauma. I know. I just want to help break through these patterns. The 12-week breakthrough coaching program is for you. You can go to my website and click the tab in the top, and you'll see 12-week breakthrough coaching program. We go live in June. Okay, June 2nd, we start the next live class. If you've already taken the 12-week breakthrough coaching program and you want to get to the next level where you're like, I know I'm not my program. I know I'm my emotions. Well, I know I'm not my emotions, but I know I can control the flow of my emotions. And I can use my emotions and my new level of self-awareness to recognize how my emotions are showing up in my reality. Then you're ready for the 8-week neuromanifestation masterclass. If you've done the masterclass, or if you're someone who's like, I get all of this, I know how to manifest, I know that I'm not my emotions, I know that I'm not my thoughts, but I want to be free of ego consciousness. I want to know myself as one with the divine. I want to be somebody that walks the walk. I want spiritual growth. I don't want to be somebody who talks out of both sides of my mouth where I hate one group of people, and I think that I belong into the best group of people. That's duality consciousness. I don't want to do that anymore. I know I'm being programmed to do that. I want to be in a state of unity consciousness. I want humanity first. I want humanity first. I want to be part of humanity. I want to know how to ascend that separation consciousness. Then you are ready for Soul School. Now, this is my most advanced course yet. I would say that it appears very much like a college course on quantum science, on philosophy, on psychology, on neuroscience. And so you have to be prepared for that. But this is the journey that I've laid out where people who are interested in control in managing their minds, this would be 12-week class, 8-week class, and Soul School. If you're new, like I said, if you're new, the 21-day journal is for you, or my membership that has most of my other courses inside that membership for only $49 a month or $297 for the year. If you would like some direction, just email me at coach@lisaaromano.com, and I will be happy to return an email to you to get you on the path of escaping the matrix of childhood trauma and avoiding the trap that's happening today with social media. So namaste, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to our moderator, Miss Mary Kay. Please feel free to also join my public Facebook group if this information resonated with you. We are stronger together. And thank you, Donna, for saying the membership is amazing. We love you. You are an incredible warrior of love and light and metacognition. Bye for now. See you next week. Bye, everybody.